And now to Southern Africa, where South Africa's population grew by more than 10 million to 62 million over the past decade. And this is according to the country's statistics agency as it unveiled the result of a new census. This shows and marks a 19.8% increase from 51.8 million in 2011 when the last census was conducted. According to data, there are at least 62 million people in South Africa compared to 2011 census, which recorded 51 million people. Now, these translate to a population growth rate of about 1.8%. The census also shows that there are more than 2.4 million international migrants in the country, which equates to around 3% of total population. And most of these international migrants come from the SADC region. Around 45.5% of international migrants come from Zimbabwe, 18.7% from Mozambique, and 10.2% from Lesotho. And now to talk about these, Democratic Alliance Gauteng Shadow MEC for Human Settlement, Mervyn Cirota joins me from Gauteng for more on this. Good afternoon. Glad to have you join me.
Thank you so much.
Now, looking at these data, I mean, it shows the population in South Africa has grown so much over the years. How concerned are you about this?
The major concern is the ability to be able to look after and service these communities. As you know, we have serious problems of service delivery. And the numbers, the huge numbers, and we talk about a 10 million increase, there is also an increase in foreign nationals. So it puts more pressure on municipalities which are extremely under pressure right now to deliver service. So we're going to have to really pull our buckles up. We're going to have to be much more efficient. We're going to ensure that there needs to be more effective service delivery because the numbers merely put more pressure on the joblessness. And as you know, our numbers are pretty high. So we've simply got to do a better job. We've got to be more effective. We've got to do away with corruption, and we've got to be efficient.
Right. Now, let's talk about South African communities amid this growing population explosion. What are some of the challenges that huge populations like these are likely to face?
Well, you're probably also aware that a short while ago, we've had huge problems within the city of Johannesburg. We've had fires, we've had underground explosions. So we have a huge problem with infrastructure. And that must be the main focus going forward. And we as an opposition are trying to get government, and we hope to be in government next year, but we're trying to get government to be more effective in the way they deal with it. If you recognize that there's a problem, do something about it. Don't put it in the bottom drawer and hope that it will go away. We have major challenges in Gauteng, which is the economic hub of South Africa, and we need to deal with those, particularly now with the huge numbers and particularly with the joblessness. So we need to be more effective. We need to understand what the responsibilities are, and we need to name and shame those officials that are corrupt. We need to capacitate our officials better, and we need to hold people responsible who cannot do their jobs. And that is why it is so important that we are financially secure, that we look after the funds, and that we protect the structures that we have.
Now, Mr. Cirota, Gauteng has emerged as a city with the highest population, maybe because of, people flocking in to look for better opportunities. Now, speaking of that, migrants taking a big slice in that data, how is this affecting, for instance, service delivery and also the economic potential growth for this region, Gauteng?
Okay. As you know, there's been a lot of talk about migrants and the fact that there's a lot of migrants who are not put onto any databases, so that they sometimes very difficult to determine exactly who is coming into South Africa. But because of the high rate of joblessness and because of the inability to keep proper records, it's very difficult to determine exactly what the problem is. However, again, it's something we've been calling for quite some time as the main opposition in Gauteng, that better databases be held, that migrants must be put on databases, that these illegal immigrants are coming across the border, and unfortunately, because they are not kept on any records, they migrate to areas where they think there are best opportunities. And those opportunities are unfortunately in areas where the services are overburdened. So we've got to look at that and we've got to work things better. I think migrants can play a very important role if they're brought into the economy in the right way. They bring a lot of expertise, but it needs to be in a structured way, and it needs to be done totally within the legal parameters that exist. Right.
Now, you mentioned something very striking, which is the need to ensure proper record keeping. What measures would you, for instance, profile in terms of, keeping the books, clean and ensuring population is controlled in these areas?
Well, migrants, anyone who comes into any country needs to be put onto a proper database. So people need to be documented. They need to give addresses. You need to know where they're going to live. And you cannot have porous borders the way that South Africa has, where people can simply come across and migrate to areas where the infrastructure is under huge pressure and where people are unable to live normal lives. So the first thing to do was to ensure that there's proper checks and balances at our borders. The second is to ensure that there's some controls as to where people go, but more importantly is to ensure that people who do migrate to certain areas, that we know where they are, that they're properly brought in a structured way into the local economy, because we certainly need an injection of capital and expertise to work together with our local residents. And also people know that they're there. You don't have this jealousy and problems that we've had in the past, complaints about migrants taking South African jobs. So it needs to be structured and it needs to be disciplined. And if that's done, things will start to get better.
All right, thank you so much for your insight, Mervyn Cirota, all the way from Gauteng, from the Human Settlement in Democratic Alliance. Thank you for your insight.
Thank you so much for your time.